Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our Swadhyaya Online Reading Retreat Labs presents Power of SAP, the Gateway to Spirituality program. In this series, we have been reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam every morning and Bhagavad Gita every day evening, right? So here SAP refers to the Sambandha Abhidhaya Version, not a typical ERP product SAP, which you must be knowing if you're an IT professional. And in this series, we are continuing with the canto number 9. In the last sessions, we have completed, if you have seen the playlist, it is already there in the canto number 9, the chapter, the Khatvanga story we have completed in the last session. So you can see the verse number 9.9.40249. That is the part which we have completed there. And today we are going to start with a new chapter. So that is, we are going to start chapter number 10, the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. So it is actually summarizes the entire Ramayana story in 55 verses. It is good to know all the entire story of Ramayana in a very brief way. Okay. So now let's, without any further ado, let's go to the database. And if you're already having the hard copy, you can read it from there as well. And if you do not have, connect with the nearest ISKCON temple and you'll be getting from there directly, right? So now let's go to the canto number Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And we will go to the canto number 9. And we are going to read from chapter number 10, right? So chapter number 9, as I said, already we have completed. It was the last part, canto number 9. And canto number 9, chapter number 9, this is the one, right? And you can see already, if you have missed it out any chance, you can always refer here. Okay. So yeah. So now without any further ado, let's then get started. 9 point, chapter number 10. The pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. This 10th chapter describes how Lord Ramachandra appeared in the dynasty of Maharaja Khatvanga. It also describes the Lord's activities, telling how he killed Ravana and returned to Ayodhya, the capital of his kingdom. The son of Maharaja Khatvanga was the Gavahu, and his son was Raghu. The son of Raghu was Aja, the son of Aja was Dasaratha, and the son of Dasaratha and was Lord Ramachandra, the supreme personality of Godhead. When the Lord descended into this world in his full quadruple expansion as Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna, great sages like Valmiki, who were actually in knowledge of the absolute truth, described his transcendental pastime. Srila Sukadeva Goswami describes these pastimes in brief. Lord Ramachandra went with Vishwamitra and killed Rakshasa like Maricha. After breaking the stout and strong bow known as Haradhanu, the Lord married Mother Sita and cut down the prestige of Parsurama. To obey the order of his father, he entered the forest accompanied by Lakshmana and Sita. There he cut off the nose of Shurpanakha and killed the associates of Ravana, headed by Khara and Dusana. Ravana's kidnapping of Sita Devi was the beginning of the demon's misfortune. When Maricha assumed the form of a golden deer, Lord Ramachandra went to bring the deer to please Sita Devi. But in the meantime, Ravana took advantage of the Lord's absence to kidnap her. When Sita Devi was kidnapped, Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lakshmana, searched for her throughout the forest. In the course of this search, they met Jatayu. Then the Lord killed the demon Kavandha and the commander Vali and established a friendly relationship with Sugriva. After organizing the military strength of the monkeys and going with them to the shore of the sea, the Lord awaited the arrival of Samudra, the ocean personified. But when Samudra didn't come, the master of Samudra became angry. Then Samudra came to the Lord with great haste and surrendered to him, wanting to help him in every way. The Lord then attempted to breed the ocean, and with the help of advice from Vibhishana, he attacked Ravana's capital, Lanka. Previously, Hanuman, the eternal servant of the Lord, had set fire to Lanka, and now, with the help of Lakshmana, the person of Lord Ramachandra, killed all the Rakshasa soldiers. Then Lord Ramachandra personally killed Ravana. Mandodari and other wives lamented for Ravana. And in accordance with Ramachandra's order, Vibhishana performed the funeral ceremonies for all the dead in the family. Lord Ramachandra then gave Vibhishana the right to rule Lanka and also granted him a long duration of life. The Lord delivered Sita Devi from the Asoka forest and carried her in a flower airplane to his capital, Ayodhya, where he was received by his brother Bharata. When Lord Ramachandra entered Ayodhya, Bharata brought his wooden shoes. Vibhishana and Sugriva held a whisk and a fan. Hanuman carried an umbrella. Satrughna carried the Lord's bow and two beavers, and Sitadevi carried a water pot containing water from holy places. Angada carried a sword, and Jamavan, Niksharaja, carried a seal after Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lord Lakshmana and her mother Sitadevi, met all his relatives. The great sage Vasistha enthroned him as a king. The chapter ends with a short description of Lord Ramachandra's rule in Ayodhya. So this summarizes the entire chapter number 10. So we are going to divide it into as per the mind map, we divide it into three parts. So today we are going to cover from first verse to 32 verse, where beginning to Lord Rama kills demon Ravana. In the second part, in the next day, tomorrow, we will be looking after how Lord Rama's coronation as the king of Ayodhya. And in the third part, we'll be learning about Sri Rama Rajya, that is the rule of Lord Rama. Okay, so this is the how we have divided into three parts. Now let's continue with today's from text number 1. So as usual, we'll be reading only the translation and the purport. So first verse, Canto number 9, chapter number 10, verse number 1, and point 10.1. Translation, Sukadeva Goswami said, the son of Maharaj Khatavanga was the Gavahu, and his son was the celebrated Maharaja Raghu. From Maharaja Raghu came Aja, and from Aja was born the great personality Maharaja Dasaratha. Verse number 2, translation. Being prayed for by the demigods, the supreme personality of Godhead, the absolute truth himself, directly appeared to him with his expansion and expansion of the expansion. Their holy names were Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in four forms as the sons of Maharaja Dasaratha. Purport. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.39. Ramadi Murtisu Ka Kalaniyamena Tisthan. The Lord is situated in many forms, such as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna. And these forms may exist in any part of his creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead, and they resemble many candles, all equally powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Satrughna, who being Vishnu Tattva, are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaja Dasaratha in response to prayers by the demigods. So we'll go to the next verse. So next verse says, verse number 3, 9.10.3. So here we are going to read the translation. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth, because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita. I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Purport. Modern Rakshasa, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the description of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattvadarsis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises that vidhi pranipatena pratiprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him. submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is Tattvadarshi, in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Sukadeva Goswami told Maharaja Parikshit, "You have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayanas or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, and there are many still, but we must select only those books written by the Tattvadarsis, Jnanina Tattvadarshina, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate." This is warning by Sukadeva Goswami. Pisivis Tattvadarshi, although the Ramayana composed by Balmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Sukadeva Goswami in few verses. In a few verses. Verse number 4. Translation. To keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of a king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from the one forest to another on his lotus feet, which were so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was accompanied by Hanuman or by another monkey, Sugriva, king of the monkeys, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshmana, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest, having cut off the nose and ears of Sutrarekha, thus disfiguring her. The Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. Moving to the next verse, verse number 5. In the arena of sacrifice performed by Vishwamitra, Lord Ramachandra, the king of Ayodhya, killed many demons, Rakshasa, and uncivilized men who wandered at night in the mode of darkness. May Lord Ramachandra, who killed these demons in the presence of Lakshmana, be kind enough to give us protection. Verse number 6 to 7. O king, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra were wonderful, like those of a baby elephant. In the assembly where Mother Sita was to choose a husband in the midst of the heroes of this world, he broke the bow belonging to Lord Shiva. This bow was so heavy that it was carried by the 300 men, but Lord Ramachandra bent and strung it and broke it in the middle, just as a baby elephant breaks a stick of sugar cane. Thus, the Lord achieved the hand of Mother Sita, who was equally as endowed with transcendental qualities of form, beauty, behavior, age, and nature. Indeed, she was the goddess of fortune who constantly rests on the chest of the Lord while returning from Sita's home after gaining her at the assembly of competitors. Lord Ramachandra met Parsurama. Although Parsurama was very proud, having read the Earth of the Royal Order 21 times, he was defeated by the Lord, who appeared to be a Kshatriya of the Royal Order. Verse number 8. Translation. Carrying out the order of his father, who was bound by a promise to his wife, Lord Ramachandra left behind his kingdom, opulence, friends, well-wishers, residence, and everything else, just as a liberated soul gives up his life and went to the forest with Sita. Purport. Maharaja Dasaratha had three wives. One of them, Kaikeyi, served him very pleasingly, and he therefore wanted to give her a benediction. Kaikeyi, however, said that she would ask for benediction when it was necessary. At the time of the coronation of Prince Ramachandra, Kaikeyi requested her husband to enthrone her son Bharata and send Ramachandra to the forest. Maharaja Dasaratha, being bound by his promise, ordered Ramachandra to go to the forest, according to the dictation of his beloved. And the Lord, as an obedient son, accepted the order immediately. He left everything without hesitation, just as a liberated soul or a great yogi gives up his life without material attraction. Moving to the next verse number 9. Translation. While wandering in the forest, where he accepted a life of hardship, carrying his invincible bow and arrows in his hand, Lord Ramachandra deformed Ravana's sister, who was polluted with lusty desires, by cutting off her nose and ears. He also killed her 14,000 Rakshasa friends, headed by Shara, Trishara, and Dushana. Moving to the next verse number 10. Translation. O King Parikshit, when Ravana, who had 10 heads on his shoulders, heard about the beautiful and attractive features of Sita, his mind was agitated by lusty desires, and he went to kidnap her. To distract Lord Ramachandra from his ashrama, Ravana sent Maricha in the form of a golden deer. And when Lord Ramachandra saw that wonderful deer, he left his residence and followed it, and finally killed it with a sharp arrow, just as Lord Shiva killed Daksha. Verse number 11. Translation. When Ramachandra entered the forest and Lakshmana was also absent, the worst of the Rakshasa, Ravana kidnapped Sitadevi, the daughter of the king of Videha, just as a tiger seizes unprotected sheep when the sheep shepherd is absent. Then Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshmana, as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus, he showed by his personal example the condition of a person attached to women. Purport. In this verse, the words Sri Sangina Gatim Iti indicate that the condition of a person attached to women was shown by the Lord himself. According to moral instructions, Grihe Narim Vivajayat. When one goes on a tour, one should not bring his wife. Formerly, men used to travel without conveyances, but still, as far as possible, when one leaves home, one should not take his wife with him, especially if one is in such a condition as Lord Ramachandra, when banished by the order of his father. Whether in the forest or at home, if one is attached to women, this attachment is always troublesome, as shown by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his personal example. Of course, this is the material side of Sri Sangi, but the situation of Lord Ramachandra is spiritual, for he doesn't belong to the material world. Narayana Paravyakta. Narayana is beyond the material creation because he is the creator of the material world. He is not subject to the condition of the material world. The separation of Lord Ramachandra from Sita is spiritually understood as a Vipralambha, which is an activity of the Hladinic potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead belonging to Sringara Rasa, the mellow of conjugal love in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of God has all the dealings of love, displaying the symptoms called Sattvika, Sanchari, Vilapa, Musha, and Unmada. Thus, when Lord Ramachandra was separated from Sita, all the spiritual symptoms are manifested. The Lord is neither impersonal nor impotent. Rather, he is Sachidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of knowledge and bliss. Thus, he has all the symptoms of spiritual bliss. Feeling separation from one's beloved is also an item of spiritual bliss. As explained by Srila Swarupa Damodar Goswami, Radha Krishna Pranaya Bhikti Vikriti Hladin Sakti. The dealings of love between Radha and Krishna are displayed as the pleasure potency of the Lord. The Lord is the original source of all pleasure, the reservoir of all pleasure, Lord Ramachandra therefore manifested the truth both spiritually and materially. Materially, those who are attached to women suffer, but spiritually, when there are feelings of separation between the Lord and his pleasure potency, the spiritual bliss of the Lord increases. This is further explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Avajananti mama mudha manusha tanums ashritam param bhavam ajananto mam bhuta maheshwaram. One who doesn't know the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead thinks of the Lord as an ordinary human being, but the Lord's mind, intelligence, and senses can never be affected by material conditions. This fact is further explained in the Skanda Purana, as quoted by Madhvacharya. So we're not going to read the entire verse, this will read the translations again. It was actually impossible for Ravana to take away Sita. The form of Sita taken by Ravana was an illusory representation of Mother Sita, Maya Sita. When Sita was tested in the fire, this Maya Sita was burnt. The real Sita came out of the fire. A further understanding to be derived from this example is that women, however powerful she may be in the material world, must be given protection, for as soon as she is unprotected, she will be exploited by Rakshasas like Ravana. Here the words by Deha Raja Duhitari indicate before mother Sita was married to Lord Ramachandra, she was protected by her father, by Deha Raja, and when she was married, she was protected by her husband. Therefore, the conclusion is that a woman should always be protected. According to the Vedic rule, there is no scope for a woman being independent. Asamaksham, for a woman cannot protect herself independently. Verse number 12, translation. Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, had assumed the form of a human being. Thus, he performed the funeral ceremony of Jatayu, who was killed by Ravana. The Lord then killed the demon called Kabandha, and after making friends with her monkey chiefs, killing Bali, and arranging for the deliverance of Mother Sita, he went to the beach of the ocean. Forward. When Ravana kidnapped Sita, he was obstructed by the way of Jatayu, a large part. But the powerful Ravana defeated Jatayu in the fight and cut his wing. When Ramachandra was searching for Sita, he found Jatayu almost dead and was informed that Sita has been carried off by Ravana. When Jatayu died, Lord Ramachandra did the duty of his son by performing the funeral ceremony, and then he made friends with the monkeys to deliver Sita Devi. Verse number 13. After reaching the beach, Lord Ramachandra fasted for 3 days, awaiting the arrival of the ocean personified. When the ocean didn't come, the Lord exhibited his pastimes of anger, and simply by his glancing over the ocean, all the living entities within it, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. Then the personified ocean fearfully approached Lord Ramachandra, taking all paraphernalia to worship him. Falling at Lord's lotus feet, the personified ocean spoke as follows. Verse number 14. Translation. O all pervading Supreme Person, we are dull minded and didn't understand who you are. You are, but now we understand that you are the Supreme Person, the Master of the entire universe, the unchanging and original personality of Godhead. The demigods are infatuated with the mode of goodness, the Prajapatis with the mode of passion, and the Lord of Ghosts with the mode of ignorance, but you are the master of all these qualities. Purport. The word Jadadhyaha refers to intelligence like that of an animal. A person with such intelligence cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead. Without being bitten, an animal cannot understand the purpose of a man. Similarly, those who are dull minded cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead. But when punished severely by the modes of material nature, they begin to understand him. A Hindi poet has said, दुख से सब हरि भजे सुख से भजे कोई सुख से अगर हरि भजे दुख katha se haya. When one is distressed, he goes to the church or temple to worship the Lord, but when opulent, he forgets the Lord. Therefore, punishment by the Lord through material nature is necessary in human society, for without it, men forget the supremacy of the Lord due to their dull, blunt intelligence. Next verse. Translation. My Lord, you may use my water as you like. Indeed, you may cross it and go to the abode of Ravana, who is the great source of disturbance and crying for the 3 worlds. He is the son of Vishrava, but is condemned like urine. Please go kill him and thus regain your wife, Sita Devi. O great hero, although my water presents no impediment to your going to Lanka, please construct a bridge over it to spread your transcendental fame. Upon seeing this wonderfully uncommon deed of your lordship, all the great heroes and kings in the future will glorify you. Purport. It is said that a sun and urine emanate from the same source, the genitals. When a son is a devotee of a great learned person, the similar discharge for begetting a son is successful. But if the son is unqualified and brings no glory to his family, he is no better than urine. Here, Ravana is compared to urine because he was a cause of disturbances to the 3 worlds. Thus, the ocean personified wanted him killed by Lord Ramachandra. One feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, is omnipotence. The Lord can act without regard to material impediments or inconveniences. But to prove that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and was not merely advertised as Godhead or elected by popular vote, he constructed a wonderful bridge over the ocean. Nowadays, it has become fashionable to create some artificial god who performs no uncommon activities. A little magic will bewilder a foolish person into selecting an artificial god because he doesn't understand how powerful God is. Lord Ramachandra, however, constructed a bridge over the water with stone by making the stone float. This is proof of God's uncommonly wonderful power. Why should someone be accepted as God without displaying extraordinary potency by doing something never to be done by any common man? We accept Lord Ramachandra as the supreme personality of Godhead because he constructed this bridge, and we accept Lord Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead because he lifted Govardhan hill when he was only 7 years old. We should not accept any rascal as God or an incarnation of God, for God displays special features in various activities. Therefore, the Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma charmetibyam evam suyobeti tattva tektva deham punarjanma naiti mema emameti so arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities doesn't, upon leaving the body, take his path again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. The activities of the Lord are not common. They are all transcendently wonderful and not able to be performed by any other living being. The symptoms of the Lord's activities are all mentioned in the Shastras, and after one understands them, one can accept the Lord as He is. Moving to the next verse, verse number 16. Sukadeva Goswami said, after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains whose trees and other vegetation had been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, Lord Ramachandra went to Lanka to release Sitadevi from the clutches of Ravana. With the direction and help of Vibhishana, Ravana's brother, the Lord, along with the monkey soldiers headed by Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burned by Hanuman. Purport. Great mountain peaks covered with trees and plants were thrown into the sea by the monkey soldiers and began to float by the supreme will of the Lord. By the supreme will of the Lord, many great planets float weightlessly in space like swabs of cotton. If this is possible, why should great mountains peaks not be able to float on water? This is the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do anything and everything he likes because he is not under the control of the material nature. Indeed, material nature is controlled by him. Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Only under his direction does Prakriti or material nature work. Similar information is given in the Brahma Samhita 5.52. Yashagyam Brahmati Sambrata Kala Chakra Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. Describing how material nature works, the Brahma Samhita says that the sun moves as desired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, for Lord Ramachandra to construct a bridge of the Indian Ocean with the help of monkey soldiers who threw great mountain peaks into the water is not at all wonderful. It is wonderful only in the sense that it is kept the name and theme of Lord Ramachandra eternally celebrated. Moving to the next verse, verse number 17, translation. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers, led by chiefs like Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the peasants. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden waterfalls on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river disturbed by a herd of elephants. Verse number 18. When Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, saw the disturbance created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Nikumbha, Kumbha, Dhumraksha, Durmukha, Surantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son Indrajit. Thereafter, he called for Prahasta, Atikaya, Bikampana, and finally Kumbhakarna. Then he induced all his followers to fight against the enemies. Verse number 19. Translation. Lord Ramachandra, surrounded by Lakshmana and monkey soldiers like Sugriva, Hanuman, and Gandhamada, Nila, Angada, Jambabana, and Panasha, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, prasas, rishtis, sakti arrows, khadgas, and kumaras. Verse number 20. Translation. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and the chariots of the enemy and hurled against them victories, mountain peaks, gloves, and arrows. Thus, the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. Purport. The soldiers of Lord Ramachandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and didn't have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana. For Ravana soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare, whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana who sought some arrows, but because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purushakara. Daiva refers to strength achieved from the transcendence, and Purusakara refers to strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Mam Anushvara Yudhyacha, think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory, we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse number 21, translation. Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus, he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. Verse number 22, translation. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, you are the most abominable of the men-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool. You resemble a dog, for as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnap my wife, Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful, and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you. Purport. Nachadaivat param balam. No one can surpass the strength of the transcendence. Ravana was so sinful and shameless that he didn't know what the result would be of kidnapping Mother Sita, the pleasant potency of Ramachandra. This is the disqualification of the Rakshasas. Ashatyam apratishtham ti jagat ahur anishwaram. The Rakshasas are unaware that the Supreme Lord is the ruler of the creation. They think that everything has come about by chance or accident and that there is no ruler, king, or controller. Therefore, the Rakshasas act independently as a like, going even so far as to kidnap the goddess of virtue. This policy of Ravana is extremely dangerous for the materialist. Indeed, it brings ruin to the materialistic civilization, nonetheless, because atheists are Rakshasas. They dare to do things that are most abominable, and thus they are punished without fail. Religion consists of the orders of the Supreme Lord, and one who carries out these orders is religious. One who fails to carry out the Lord's orders is irreligious, and he is to be punished. So, with this, we have completed the first part of this particular chapter, that is Lord Rama kills demon Ravana. In the next sessions, tomorrow's session, we'll be looking after the next set of verses from verse number 33 to verse number 50, where we'll be seeing Lord Rama's coronation as the king of Ayodhya. So I will recommend to read all the 32 verses, and we will be having a Kahoot quiz in the upcoming days. So stay tuned for that. If any question, you can always ask in the community forum, or if you're watching it from YouTube, you can always post your questions there. I will stop here. Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.